What's going on, kings and queens of this wonderful wonderland that we call YouTube? We are back once again with another review. This time it's of Call of Duty WWII. So, when I initially came up, excuse me, with the idea of doing this video, I was planning on sharing with you guys the story of my relationship with the Call of Duty franchise and how I've managed to go from what I would consider a pretty die-hard fan in its heyday to a lukewarm party, a very neutral, standoffish party in more recent years. I was planning on maybe cracking a joke or two about what a disappointment that the more recent games in the series have been to me before I got into the opinions and impressions of Call of Duty WWII. But now that we're here and I'm recording this, I've decided to skip over all that and just get into the real meat and potatoes of why we're all here, which is so that I can tell you that I really wholeheartedly enjoyed this game. Much to my surprise, Call of Duty has returned to its roots, found a way to appease my nostalgic self and produce a game that not only I was able to fully immerse myself in, but like I said, really enjoy. And that's not to say that when I found out that Call of Duty was returning to World War II, that I wasn't skeptical. After all, when you've been let down and hurt as much as the Call of Duty community has more recently, it's quite difficult to convince yourself it's okay to give a damn. So this wasn't a game that I was, overly excited for. I didn't run out and pre-order it months in advance or anything silly like that. But what I was able to do was turn my caged excitement, or the excitement that I didn't show, into optimism and curiosity. Curiosity more so to the fact of wanting to know how they were going to tackle something that Call of Duty has done numerous times in the past. They have countless games in the series that do, I would say, a pretty good job of covering World War II from start to finish. So my main concern was how they were going to be able to do such things, return home, as it were, without it feeling very stale and like it had been done numerous times in the past. And let me just say that I ate my words within the first probably 10 or 15 minutes into the game. I don't know how they did it, but they managed to, at least for me, breathe really fresh, new air into something that I was familiar with. Which is ultimately probably why I fell in love with this Call of Duty so quickly, because it was something old, something new, brought together to create a familiar but completely brand new experience. So, to the Call of Duty fanboys out there that may or may not see this, if there are any of you left out there, you're probably wondering why I like this game so much. Why I care about this game so much. And why I feel much stronger about this game than I did, let's say, about Advanced Warfare, for example? And the answer to that is very simple. It's because Call of Duty World War II made me care. It caused a connection with the game that I have been unable to find with a Call of Duty game in several years. And when I say it made me care, I mean that on two levels. And probably the biggest one, personally, is the overall situation of the game and the scope of World War II. And ultimately because, as silly as this might sound, World War II is much more than a game. It's much more than your typical bad guy, good guy, first-person shooter, where you just go and destroy the enemy and save the world. And it deals with something far less far-fetched than fighting Jon Snow in space to colonize the galaxy. You know, World War II was a very real thing that happened. It's history. It's not, what could happen or what if this happened in the future. It did happen. And it's something that is very serious that millions of people were affected by. And it made me care because it really, as I was playing, made me think. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but first-person shooters, whether it be Call of Duty or Battlefield, are getting more and more realistic by the year. They're becoming less and less about gameplay, in my opinion, and more about the overall experience and just being in the war. And maybe it's because I'm not so much a kid anymore. I'm an adult that really can more or less understand the full gravity of a war like World War II. But the entire time I just couldn't help but think. I was like, wow, when you play the D-Day level, like, how scary it must have been in real life for these soldiers, because each and every level in the game, there's a realization that each and every level of the game is a moment in history. Somebody, about my age, if not younger, some older, but somebody my age, more or less, experienced this, lived through this, maybe even died in this moment in history, and it was very, very intense to think about. And I was just like, wow, take like I said, Normandy, D-Day, for example. How scary it must have been to experience this as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, whatever the case is. Like how rough the Battle of the Bulge must have been to be kind of outmanned and outgunned in the dead of winter without supplies. And man, I just the real life aspect is something that I've never experienced in a Call of Duty game personally. I've experienced it more recently with Battlefield 1, but just to kind of have that raw, intense emotion come out of me while playing it, that is something that I can't describe to you, and it did make me emotional. The other aspect of the connection that I had with the game that really made it stand out is with the characters and the story itself. It follows a platoon of very diverse, very colorful characters as they arrive on the beaches of Normandy, and they push through France and ultimately liberate France, and ultimately push through Germany's defensive stance, and basically leads them to the end of the war. And like I said, this game made me care about each and every character that you dealt with throughout these hardships. And it really, really made you feel things. Like you really can feel the tension between everybody in your platoon in times of hardship. Not only that, but you really experience so much more than just hardships on our side of things as Americans. The game does a really good job of showing you just the whole scope of the war. You really feel how much the French people suffered before they were liberated from the Nazis. You could really see the strain that it had on German people that weren't Nazis. Everybody suffered, whether it be Americans, the British, the French, Germans. We all suffered equally. And that was really something to see, because that is something that I've never really thought about before. It's something that has always kind of remained one-dimensional with me. Maybe it's a sign of adulthood, but I've gone from just caring about America singly to caring about everybody, and the game really shows that there, in a war like World War II, there really are no differences. There really are no, races and nationalities and colors of your skin. You're all there. You're all suffering. You're all fighting for what you believe in. You're all dying for what you believe in. And there really is no difference between Germans, French, British, Americans, whoever it was. We were all there for the same purpose. We were all struggling for the same outcome. And it was just really, really cool to experience, and it was really, really strange to have a game affect me in the way it did. The game even goes as far as to give you a glimpse into a concentration camp. Now, it doesn't go into the most gruesome of details, but what it does present you with and the dialogue that goes along with it, you really get enough of an idea of, I feel like we as American citizens are taught about those things in school. We watch things on the History Channel. We know that concentration camps were nothing to mess around with. But just giving the little bit of a glimpse that this game did into what it was like, don't get me wrong, it doesn't give it justice by any means. I'm not trying to say that this game definitely understands what it was like, and I completely 100% know what a concentration camp was like. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it was very eye-opening to experience firsthand walking through something like that. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of detail. There's not a whole lot that's shown or said, but it just gives you enough to give you an idea that these places were horrible. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say other than that this was much more than a game. It was a historical experience that really, really touched me, like, wholeheartedly. Like, I got emotional playing it. I almost cried while I was thinking of all these very intense, real things that we don't think about, that maybe we take for granted. But it was very, very special for me to be able to have that experience while playing video games. And this is one reason why I love video games so much, is because of these hidden gems that really give you these once in a lifetime experiences. And yeah, I don't know. All I can do is recommend it. If you're a Call of Duty fan that hasn't played it, definitely check it out. I'm sure you probably will already, but this video more specifically is for the people like me who are fans, but find themselves kind of falling off the wagon, find themselves not caring. This is a game that you specifically, as a group of people, need to experience, because it will not only, I think, if you have the same emotional real life experience that I did playing the game, not only will it open your eyes as far as history, but it will kind of open your heart and give you faith that Call of Duty is good again. Call of Duty means something again. And I just hope that, in the coming years, we get these kind of games again. Make us care. Make us relive history. Make us think. Give us wars that haven't really been experienced yet. Give us, a more in-depth look at the Korean War or the Vietnam War, something. But just keep on the path that you're on, because this is it's games like this that really make me, really made me love Call of Duty games as a kid. And it's games like this that have really kind of kept me hanging on all these years later. And I don't care what you got to do, Call of Duty. Take a year or two off, pull an Assassin's Creed, and drop the annual releases if you have to. Just do whatever you need to really create more than games, create experiences, and make us, your fan base, care like this game made me care. And I know, all the talk about kind of being emotional and coming to these realizations is silly, because it's just a video game, and I know that. But if you're somebody that appreciates video games as much as I do, I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And I hope you've had experiences like this before with other games. And yeah, I just couldn't recommend it enough, which is why I'm going to give it two scores here. Number 1, as a game in general, 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid game on its own. But the second rating I'm going to give it is a 9 out of 10 for being the best damn Call of Duty game I've played in, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe 7 years. I've lost count. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anybody, whether you're a fan of the series, whether you're like me and you've fallen off the wagon. Everybody needs to experience this game. And you know what? I know you're probably not going to love it as much as me. You're not going to get the same things out of it as me. But just take my advice and play the game and, experience what you will. Take out of it what you will. But I just think that this game really deserves a chance on a number of levels. And I'm excited for the future, and I'm hopeful for Call of Duty's future. And I'm just very, very thankful that I gave this game a chance. So in closing, again, 2 scores. As a game in general, overall, in 2017, 8 out of 10. As a Call of Duty game, 9 out of 10. So definitely check it out. And until next time, guys, as always, a fitting salute. I salute you. And remember, we're all mad here.